The New Orleans Saints are not moving like a team waiting for permission anymore. They are moving like a team that knows the NFC South is sitting right there for the taking. Kellen Moore got his quarterback another wave of help, Tyler Shuck gets a real chance to prove last year was only the start, and the front office did not spend the offseason patching holes with small moves. They attacked the roster. They added Jordan Tyson to stretch the field, brought Travis Etienne Jr. home to Louisiana, and gave this offense the kind of speed that makes defenses think before the ball is even snapped. But the bigger message is not only on offense. That is what makes this different. Brandon Staley now has a defense with more size, more length, and more answers up front. Kristen Miller gives them fresh power inside. Tyree Wilson gives them a former top 10 edge rusher with a new start. Cam Jordan and Carl Granderson are no longer being asked to carry the whole pass rush alone. Suddenly, the Saints do not look like a team hoping one side saves the other. They look like a team trying to become balanced at the exact moment the division is wide open. And that is why this season feels dangerous before a single snap is played. Chris Olave is still the trusted target. Devon Vell adds size. Oscar Delp adds another young piece. Tyler Shuck is no longer walking into the year empty-handed. This is a real test now. No excuses, no soft landing, no hiding behind the future. The Saints built the roster like they believe the jump is coming. The only problem is the league did them no favors at the start, because before this team gets a chance to breathe, the schedule throws them into two brutal road tests that can expose everything fast. The New Orleans Saints do not get a gentle start. They walk straight into Detroit in Week 1, then go straight to Baltimore in Week 2. And that is a nasty way to test a young offense before the season has even settled. Tyler Shuck will not get two easy home games to warm up. He gets noise, pressure, road tension, and two teams built to make every mistake feel heavier. That is where the truth starts showing. But here is the twist. The scary part is front-loaded. After those first two swings, the road starts to look different. The Saints come home for Las Vegas, then get Atlanta under Monday Night Lights, then Minnesota in the Dome. That stretch matters because it gives Kellen Moore a chance to fix problems before they grow teeth. If the offense leaves the first two games bruised but stable, the schedule suddenly turns from a warning sign into a runway. This is why panic would be lazy. A rough September does not automatically bury this team, because the bigger picture is built for recovery. The Saints have one of the softest overall paths in football, but the league made them pay for it up front. That makes the opening more than a record check. It becomes a character check. Can Shuck take hits and still think clearly? Can Chris Olave steady the passing game when the crowd is loud? Can Brandon Staley keep the defense calm against two different styles of attack? If the answer is yes, the rest of the NFC South has a problem. Because once New Orleans gets through that first storm, the schedule stops feeling like a trap and starts feeling like a chance. And that is where the real pressure shifts, not onto the Saints, but onto every team hoping they fall apart before October. One win from that opening pair would change the noise fast. Even two losses would not kill the season if the ball's security, timing, and protection look grown. The real disaster would be panic football, forced throws, missed checks, and a defense chasing instead of setting rules. That is why Week 1 and Week 2 matter so much. They are not only games, they are X-rays. They show what is real before the easier middle stretch begins for this entire roster now. The whole season sits on Tyler Shuck, and that is not an insult. That is the job. The Saints already gave him the signal every quarterback wants to see. They did not spend the offseason acting unsure. They added help around him, protected the middle of the roster, and built the year like his growth is the center of the plan. Now, the question is simple. Was last season a preview, or was it only a flash? That is the difference between hope and trust. Hope means the staff is hiding him. Trust means the staff gives him answers, then asks him to win from structure. The Saints are clearly choosing the second path, and that choice raises the ceiling for everyone around him now. What made Shuck interesting was not one wild highlight. It was how the game looked less rushed as the year moved on. He went 5-4 as a starter, and the team closed with real-life late-season energy instead of empty December football. That matters for a second-year quarterback because the first jump is rarely about arm talent. It is about timing. It is about knowing when to take the easy throw, when to live for the next snap, and when to trust the play instead of chasing the crowd. That is why the first two road games are such a clean test. Detroit can heat up a pocket. Baltimore can make a quarterback feel like every answer is wrong before the ball is snapped. If Shough holds his poise there, the whole story changes. He does not need to look like a finished star in September. He needs to look steady, sharp, and hard to rattle. Kellen Moore can help him with motion, quick throws, and better spacing. But at some point, the ball leaves the quarterback hand and the truth comes out. That truth decides everything. The weapons are better. The backfield is deeper. The defense has more teeth. But none of it matters if Shough turns pressure into panic. If he turns pressure into rhythm, the Saints are no longer a cute sleeper pick. They become a real division problem. And once you understand that, the next part hits harder, because New Orleans did not build this offense to protect Shough from football. They built it to let him attack. The Saints offense finally has teeth on every level. Chris Olave is still the name defenses circle first, but now he is not standing alone in the plan. Jordan Tyson arrives as the first-round rookie with the size and route talent to pull coverage away from the same spots Olave loves to attack. That matters because last year too many snaps felt like New Orleans needed one player to solve a whole drive. This year the stress gets spread out, then the backfield changes the math. Travis Etienne Jr. gives Kellen Moore a running back who can hit the edge, catch the ball, and punish a defense that gets too light. Alvin Kamara still brings patience and feel, which means the Saints are not locked into one rhythm. They can go quick. They can slow the game down. They can use motion to force linebackers into bad choices. That kind of backfield helps Tyler Shough because easy completions start to look like extended handoffs, and suddenly second and long becomes second and manageable. That is the piece fans should not miss. Better weapons do not only create bigger plays, they make normal plays cleaner. A simple slant becomes safer, a screen becomes harder to chase, a checkdown becomes a real gain. For Shough, that support is not luxury. It is survival in September against real pressure and noise now. The sneaky part is the depth. Devon Vele gives size. Oscar Delp is a rookie tight end who can grow behind Juwan Johnson. Bryce Lance brings speed as another rookie receiver. Barion Brown adds return danger and another burst piece if he earns offensive snaps. Nobody is saying every young player becomes a star right away. That would be fake. The point is different. New Orleans now has options. If defenses lean toward Olave, Tyson gets cleaner looks. If safeties back up, Etienne and Kamara can force them back down. If linebackers hesitate, the tight ends become problems in the middle. This is what a real second-year quarterback setup is supposed to look like. Not perfect, not proven, but dangerous enough to make every defensive call feel uncomfortable. And once an offense reaches that point, the next question becomes simple. Can the defense give it enough short field stops and breathing room to turn those weapons into wins? The trip to Paris looks like a schedule headline, but for the Saints, it is bigger than a passport game. New Orleans meets the Pittsburgh Steelers at Stade de France, and the moment alone puts this team under a different kind of light. Morning kickoff, foreign field, national attention, no normal routine. That kind of week can either shake a young team or sharpen it, because everybody has to grow up fast when the setting changes. And that is why this spot matters. It is not tucked away in a quiet noon window. It is built for attention. If the Saints look organized there, casual fans will start asking a very different question about them. The deeper story sits with the coaches. Kellen Moore is not walking into this matchup blind. Across from him is Mike McCarthy, the coach who once worked with him in Dallas. That history matters because football becomes personal without turning disrespectful. Both men know how the other thinks. Both know the calls the other likes when the game gets tight. And with Aaron Rodgers wearing black and gold in Pittsburgh, the matchup gets even heavier. You are not only facing a proud franchise, you are facing a quarterback who has seen every coverage trick a defense can show. But the schedule gives the Saints a hidden gift. Right after Paris, they get the bye. That changes everything. International games can drain a roster, especially when the next opponent is waiting with fresh legs. New Orleans avoids that trap. They can travel, play, reset, and come home with time to breathe. That makes the Paris game feel less like a burden and more like a checkpoint. If Tyler Shough handles the stage, if Chris Olave and Jordan Tyson make plays outside, if Brandon Staley keeps the defense from chasing ghosts against Rodgers, the Saints return from Europe with a different level of belief. The win would count the same in the standings, but the feeling would not. Beating Pittsburgh in that setting would tell the locker room something stronger than any speech. It would tell them their game can travel. And once the bye passes, the season stops being about survival. It becomes about whether the defense can grow from interesting to dangerous, because Staley now has a group built much closer to his real vision. Brandon Staley does not need a perfect defense for the Saints to become dangerous. He needs a defense that makes quarterbacks speed up. That is the whole key. Last year was about teaching the system, finding the right spots, and seeing who could survive the change. This year has to feel different. The front is younger, the body types make more sense, the rotation has more answers. That is how a defense starts moving from theory into real pressure. Start inside with Kristen Miller, the rookie defensive tackle from Georgia. He gives New Orleans a heavy interior piece who can push a pocket instead of only holding ground. That matters because edge rushers become more dangerous when quarterbacks cannot step up cleanly. Davon Godchaux brings size in the middle. Cam Jordan brings experience. Carl Granderson brings length off the edge. Now add Miller, and suddenly the defense has more ways to squeeze a play before it turns into a big gain. It is not about one hero. It is about forcing the offense to feel bodies from every angle. That is the kind of quiet shift fans miss in May, then suddenly notice when third downs start ending differently inside the dome too. The secondary also got more flexible. Lorenzo Styles Jr. comes in as a rookie defensive back with movement skills. TJ Hall arrives as another rookie corner who fits the idea of competing for depth and special teams work first. Jonas Sanker gives the safety room another young piece already in the building. That matters because Staley wants defenders who can shift, cover space, and keep the call alive after motion. Modern offenses hunt confusion. A defense needs players who do not panic when the picture changes. The Saints are not finished. Nobody should pretend they are suddenly the best defense in the conference. But they are more complete than they were, and that is the real change. More size inside, more length outside, more young bodies in the back end, more ways to survive a long season. If this group can create pressure without sending extra rushers every snap, Shuck gets better field position, the offense gets more chances, and the whole team starts feeling less fragile. But there is one defensive gamble still sitting under the surface, and it might be the move that decides the ceiling. The NFC South is not locked. That is the part every Saints fan should understand before training camp even starts. This division does not have one team sitting miles above everyone else. The Carolina Panthers proved they could finish strong. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers still have Baker Mayfield and a proud offense. The Atlanta Falcons have enough talent to make any matchup tense. But none of them are untouchable. That is why New Orleans had to act with urgency. The cleanest proof is the back end of the schedule. Week 14 sends the Saints to Carolina, Week 15 sends them to Tampa Bay, Week 17 sends them to Atlanta. Week 18 brings Tampa Bay into the Caesars Superdome. That is 4 division games in the final 5 weeks, and that is not background noise. That is the season being placed right in front of them. If Tyler Shuck has grown by then, and if the offense has found its rhythm, those games become more than matchups. They become chances to take control. That is the beauty and the danger of this path. The Saints will not be able to fake progress. December will expose everything: the quarterback, the play caller, the pass rush, the depth, and the nerve under pressure. The Falcons' games carry the sharpest edge because last year left a mark. New Orleans gets Atlanta at home on Monday Night Football first, then sees them again on the road in Week 17. That is a clean revenge setup without needing cheap talk. Michael Penix Jr. will not be easy to deal with. Bijan Robinson can change a game with one crease. Drake London can punish soft coverage. Respect the threat, but do not fear the moment. The Saints built this offseason for games exactly like those. Late division football, heavy pressure, short memories, loud stadiums. If they split those closing battles, they stay alive. If they win most of them, they can take the South. That is why the schedule feels like a challenge and a gift at the same time. It does not hide the big games in September. It waits until the team should be stronger, then asks New Orleans to prove it. And if they are still standing by then, the whole division may come down to one thing: whether their biggest defensive bet finally pays off. Now, the quiet move comes back into focus. Tyree Wilson is not a rookie, and he is not some unknown name trying to sneak onto a roster. He was once a top 10 pick, a long, powerful edge defender with the kind of body teams usually refuse to give away early. Las Vegas moved on, New Orleans stepped in. That is the kind of move nobody talks about in May, then everyone revisits if the player finally lands in the right role. This is not about pretending Wilson has already become a star. That would be too easy, and it would not be honest. The story is about fit. In New Orleans, he does not have to save the pass rush by himself. Cam Jordan brings the old head calm. Carl Granderson gives them a proven edge presence. Kristen Miller can help push the pocket from inside. Davin Godchaux can hold the middle. That gives Wilson something he needed badly: room to grow without every snap feeling like a final exam. Sometimes a player needs a new call sheet, a new coach, and a different front to look like himself again. Because this is not built on one miracle. It is built on several reasonable jumps happening together. That is how surprise teams rise, not overnight. One role gets clearer, one player gets sharper, one unit starts closing games. If Brandon Staley unlocks even part of that talent, the Saints defense feels completely different. Pressure changes football. It protects corners. It steals bad throws. It makes a young quarterback on the other sideline feel rushed before the rush even gets there. That is why Wilson is the swing piece on defense, the same way Tyler Shough is the swing piece on offense. One gives the team direction, the other gives it teeth. Put both jumps together, and suddenly the Saints are not begging for the NFC South to fall apart. They are forcing their way into the race. The formula is clear now. Survive the early road test. Let Shough settle in. Use Chris Olave, Jordan Tyson, Travis Etienne Jr., and Alvin Kamara to stress defenses. Let Staley build pressure without chaos. Then arrive in December, ready for the division fight. That is the message New Orleans sent. The rest of the South better hear it before it is too late.